for me, work for me.
Hola, todos amigos. So I'm here, we've made it. Feeling, I don't know, it's weird. It's been all that time. It's kind of like it did all happen and kind of like it didn't happen. But yeah, a lot to sink in, I think. That's kind of how it feels. So I'm off now with Jerry Bear to go and find the office where you get your last stamp and you get the certificate for doing the whole pilgrimage. So to officially complete your Camino, you take your credential cards to the office, which is quite near the cathedral. It's really organised, there's people there to help you, you fill out your details on a machine. It's like a deli counter, it gives you a number ticket and you wait your turn to be called to go and see the nice lady who is going to look at your credential, check out all your dates, she works out your mileage, she asks you lovely questions about how was your trip, and yeah, then you get your certificate. And here is my lovely certificate, and you pay a bit extra. I think it's like €2-3 to get it in the tube, which I would say whether you're walking or cycling, you really want to get the tube. You've worked hard for this certificate. If there is any certificate you have ever done the grind for, it will be this one, I can assure you. So you get two, and I would love to say that I've translated all the Latin, but I haven't. So that gives you a fun game to work out for yourself. And this is your other one. And at the bottom, después de realizar, so that you realised 559 kilometres por la ruta del Camino del Norte. Wonderful. Yeah, we were stiffed on that. What was our mileage in the end? So we were a bit stiffed on our mileage. The ladies put 559 kilometres. Now, actually, we did 657.25 kilometres, which is 408.4 miles. We think that this is because there must be something on the computer that works out the sort of the standard route, and there's also sections of this that would be for cycling that the walkers, now I don't know if that makes our routes shorter or longer, but we actually did the walking route. There was like one place on a road where you could go up really steep, which is like fine to walk, but really there was one track I remember that was hard to cycle, so we stayed on the road bit. So I think that was like the only really bit of the cycling loop we did, maybe of a bit somewhere. But also we rode off to campsites, so we went off the route each time to campsites, which I guess is a bit much for their thing to work that out quite quickly and efficiently to get everybody processed. But it's like a big office room, there's lots of people being checked in at the same time. It's a swift, very efficient service that they do there. And here is my Credencial de Pellegrino. It's quite handy. On the back you have all the map routes of the different caminos, and obviously we did Del Norte, and I marked each day the campsites that we the albergues that we stayed at. So we stayed at 15 campsites. We were there for 2 nights when I was really ill. We did 17 nights under canvas though, because we stayed at 3 albergues, but one of those we camped in the garden, which was great. There was another one where we would have liked to have camped in the garden, but he wanted us in the house, and that's fine. It was quite nice to be in a bed for a night, and it was towards the end. What we did find was, because we were quite late in the season and you can't just free camp anywhere you like in Spain, it's illegal. So we did do campsites as opposed to albergues because we preferred to camp and be outdoors. But end of the season, and probably equally at the other end of the season and in the winter months, yeah, you definitely want to ring ahead and check that your campsite is open. We started to notice, or they were saying to us, these are like, this is our last weekend, or this is our last 2 weekends or whatever. So yeah, that's the thing with campsites. They were God, they weren't that far off the trail, but I think if you're walking, yeah, it's adding some extra miles, but you're still just in that beautiful way of life of that's your day. So you can allot your mileage accordingly, I suppose, deciding if you want to take a really small lightweight bivvy or bivvy bag. Actually, bivvy bag wouldn't have been advisable on our trip because the amount of thunder and lightning, and it seemed to happen mostly in the night. So we were very glad we had a tent and not just an open bivvy, but maybe in the summer, I don't know. It seems to rain quite a lot in northern Spain anyway. But yeah, take your chance if you're a walker. And then we stayed in the seminary hostel in Santiago for 2 nights. Another thing that we learned, I guess, if you're a walking pilgrim doing albergues all the time, albergues only like you staying for 1 night. And maybe if you're ill and there's good reason, I guess they probably wouldn't kick you out, they'd let you rest. But yeah, I think ultimately that seems to be like some sort of albergue rule. And I really loved collecting the stamps. You just don't know what you're going to get on each day, and you can get them from restaurants and bars. Obviously the albergues, hostels, campsites, tourism offices. There's all kinds of places that you can get these, and you have to get 2 every day. And so it was like, yeah, towards the end, it's like, yes, we've already got our first one in the morning, because we would stop in at a hostel or a bar or something, a cafe, and get one on the way. And then there's always the one each night, which is at your accommodation. But yeah, it was really good fun collecting these. I can see why people do that thing on Dartmoor, pillar boxing. Is it called pillar boxing? When you go to a tour and then you have to hunt for I suppose it's like a geocode thing. You have to hunt for the box and then you put your stamp in your card. So you finish your Camino, you're all elated and you've got your certificate and you've been to Pilgrim Mass and it's all fantastic. And then you've got 2 bikes and all this kit and yourselves to get back to your ferry port. And this turned out to be not quite the jubilant day, relaxing day that we thought. Well, I don't think we'd even thought about what it was going to be like. When we got closer to Compostela, Santiago, it says in one of the videos, we went to a train station trying to prepare to find out what our options are. And that proved to be really difficult. And yeah, that was just a taster of how it was going to be. So go down to the train station, try to get bikes on there. We could get trains, but we couldn't get the bikes on the train. So you've got to find out what to do with the bikes. So everything in Spain, in the major cities that I've been to a few now, and they seem to have the coach station and the train station really close together. And it's really good. Again, very efficient. But in that area in Santiago de Compostela, you've got quite a few things that you need, and they're all within like a few hundred yards or meters of each other. So we thought we saw a car hire, van hire, and we thought, we'll go there, get a van, bikes in van, blah, blah, blah. No, cannot do that unless you actually have your proper copy of your thing, not just a photo on your phone. So that was a no-no. But then the lady in there pointed us back down the other side of the station to go to a place where it's like a parcel dispatch package office. And we got in there and there was a fair few bikes packed up. We'd actually seen people going ahead of us with bikes without pedals on and stuff, which we thought, I wonder what's going on there. They were probably going to this package office because there was a ton of bikes, and basically they could get the bikes on a dispatch back to Santander a week after, or 5 days after we should have been on the ferry. So obviously that became a no-no. So if you are bikepacking, what I would say to you is, if you've got a day that you've booked to get back and you're aiming for a day, so we stayed in a ceremony with the bikes in the room, so that was fine. We could go off into the city and not worry about the bikes. That was a really good thing about the seminary. And there was still loads of space in the room. We took a double room rather than a bunk, so that maybe it'd be different if you were in the dorm rooms. I would be guessing, yes, space would be more limited perhaps, and your bike is not as secure if you're worried about that. So yeah, I would get planning ahead of time the dispatching of your bike. No, can't do that. Then we thought, go down to the coach station. right next to the train station. And we got in there and the lady was really lovely. Now her computer was broken, so she took us to the ticket machine. She got us tickets and she also gave us well, you have to buy them. Bless her heart. I think we must have looked really sort of worn out and at the end of our tether by that point, maybe. Although we were just taking it in our stride. It is what it is. We're quite good at solving problems. And in fact, my other half thrives on it. And so she gave us, for a reduced price, the bike bag, and then you pack your bike down, obviously, and it goes into that. So that meant we had to think about the stuff that's on the bike, because it can't go in this bike bag. So off we went to good old Decathlon to get bag that it's a very handy bag, because I keep being a cyclist, walker, hiker, camper, all the rest of it, you end up with lots of pouches and bags. So this bag is now containing my multiple other bags, sachets, dry bags, all the rest of it. It also meant, by getting one with two handles like this, is that I wore it as like a backpack, because when we left the seminary in the morning, you have to go with pedals unless you're going to push your bikes down. You're certainly not going to carry them in your bike bag. So it's a case of getting to the coach station early enough, wearing this as a rucksack with all your kit in it, because most of it you've taken it off the bike, so that when you get to the coach station, you undo the bikes. Did we take bars off? We definitely took pedals off. We protected around the derailleur and things like that. So wheels have got to come off. Make sure to take your little chocks to go in your brakes, so that they don't seize on when you get to the other end. Because of course at the other end, we were going to another campsite, you want to be able to put your bike back together to then be able to rise across the city to the campsite. So yeah, this is the kind of logistics that you're having to think about that we absolutely had not thought about at all. We knew there'd be an element of this, and I guess it worked out. If you'd got on the train, you just would have put your bike on the train. I think I still would have needed the bag, because I don't know, maybe the kit would be on the bike. We took them on the train on the English side to get to the ferry port with all the kit on, because we booked bike spaces. So anyway, and after all that, then it was a holiday coke and a nice little lunch looking out over the back end of Santander.
For me, work for me, work the body for me.
So this was it. The trip home begins up at Sparrows Fart to get down to the coach station to pack said bikes in said bike bags from Alsa. And actually, as it turns out, there were some guys that must have been just doing a day trek, and they just, locals. They just arrive, chuck their bikes in, no bags at all. But off we went, sun came up, and we were heading back to Santander. And funnily enough, passing where our holiday coke came from. The great thing about going on the coach was that as you headed out into the countryside, you started to see like places and points that you recognised, hills that you were probably on the top of, using the Maps app to look up where you actually were, and then being able to relate that to the credential. Crossing the bridge at Ribadeo where you're coming from Galicia back into Cantabria. And remembering that day when I tried to stop on the bridge and then tried to get going again, and there's the lorries and the coaches and the buses. But yeah, we were now back into Cantabria. Bye-bye Galicia. You were a beautiful place, as is Cantabria, as is Asturias. It was all amazing, honestly, the sights and just being out in nature, taking your time and really being aware of your surroundings. And even though quite often you crisscross main roads, there was roads to go on. A lot of it was out in old ancient tracks. And before you knew it, we were back in Oviedo. Now, if you're doing this coach trip, you can get off the bus here for a while and get back on, because it goes to Gijón to pick up people there, and then it comes back to fetch you. We decided to stay on the bus and save our legs and our time, and yeah, we were soon heading back off into the countryside and arriving in Santander. where we stayed at Camping Cabo Mayor, and we treated ourselves to a chalet instead of camping, and very lucky that we did. We were very lucky. The black cat was around. You see in a minute why I say that. And just down the road from the campsite was this cool restaurant that's literally like built around a boat. Food was nice, surface was great, they were super friendly, and yeah, we ate here for a couple nights. Our legs and bodies had just about had it once we stopped. Then you really kind of just collapse into relaxing, and yeah, celebratory drinks were had that night. So this was it. El Camino all done, and getting ready to leave Santander on a beautiful sunny day, ready to get back on the ferry. And yeah, it was really lovely to have those few days just to round off your trip and feel that you've had a bit of a breather, because as soon as you go back home, of course, reality kicks in again. So even if I didn't get time to recover once I got home, I had that few days where I just let my body replenish, my mind settle, and yeah, it was time to get back on that boat. Travelling away from Santander Port, it was one of those surreal moments, like, did that all really just happen? Not like anything I've ever done in my life. I completely rose to the challenge and absolutely smashed it. And so in that alone, sailing out of the port, yeah, great sense of achievement. In a spiritual sense, I definitely learned what is important, but mostly I think I learned that it's trusting that somehow things just do always work out. There's the saying that lots of you have probably heard, the Camino always provides, and it does. Things just seem to just come good. And that is the thing I think that I will be taking back home to live out in daily life. To trust the process, as people say, which to me, that is living in the way. The day that we got into Compostela de Santiago, it was about 5 o'clock, and we just got to the seminary. We saved going to the cathedral for the next morning, because the next morning when we went, it was 7:30, and it was raining, and it was beautiful in the city, but yeah, it was dark and early, feeling pretty tired, and we went to the mass, and then you come out of mass and it's starting to get light, and walked around the cathedral and stood in the square. But again, it just wasn't like the movies. I didn't want it to be like the movies, but it was just sort of, it wasn't like you see people on YouTube and they're all throwing their sticks in the air and it's all great and they're having photos. That time of day in the morning, yeah, it wasn't quite like that, and just didn't have a feeling of elation. The cathedral service was beautiful. There was something, yeah, just being in that building. I mean, if Jesus rocked up tomorrow and had a look at that, I'm not sure he'd be saying, well done, lads, this is exactly as I planned it. But yeah, there's a lot of prayer in the walls of that cathedral. But the ending was tinged with sadness. That if there is a way of being man, as in humankind, then I think the natural way, it feels so right just to be walking along, taking each day as it comes, just finding your food, your water, your shelter, going from place to place, being in awe of nature, living at a pace that was your own, and yeah, just letting life unfold. It felt like the most natural thing. And so could have stayed on that trail for, yeah, a good long while. I'm not sure at what point you might have had enough. It felt really how life was meant to be. And before you know it, there you are, next day, sailing back into Plymouth Sound, arriving in the port and really kindly being met by John, who is the head of Jeremiah's Journey. Thanks, John. This was my ticker tape moment. On a local coastal path walk, my attention was drawn to a symbol on the post of a waymarker, reminding me of a seed that had been sown by some friends more than a decade before, who walked this magical, mysterious path in Spain that they called the Camino Way. Many moons ago, pilgrims would have come from up-country Ireland and Wales, and in Cornwall now, the UK Camino starts officially at St Euny's at Lelant, following that original route from ancient times, and it crosses over to the St Michael's. This was the real beginnings of the whole adventure. Let me think. Advice. I would say pace yourself. Take the first day or so really steady. Even if you've been training, you've got a lot of days ahead of you. And you might not travel either walking or riding a bike. You might not travel as many miles as you maybe thought that you would. My friends did the Française at the same time as we were doing the Del Norte. But my mates, one of the two of them, he's like ex-Navy, and the two of them are just mentalists. Like if they start a gym program, it's like whereas I'm like, let's start a gym program. It's a little bit more easy, a little bit more sedate. I see the fitness as like you'll get there one day, whereas they're like, right, we're going to go up and we're going to do 26 miles today, we're going to climb that mountain, yeah! And they did it, and they absolutely smashed it, and they raised money as well for a very worthy charity in Plymouth too. But yeah, I all the same would say pace yourself. So we walked through September, and okay, weather's changeable, but we found that most days it was sunny. There were some days that were really hot. That seemed to be even hotter because you were going up like some pretty solid tracks or pathways that were up. And yeah, it was fair warm, whether you're walking with a pack on your back or you're riding or pushing your bike. Which brings me to walking versus cycling. Now, obviously, I wasn't walking, apart from when I was pushing the bike, I was cycling. So I would say the positives of that is that if you want to get some miles done, you can probably hammer out a few more miles. Although towards the end, we noticed that we were leaving in albergue and then seeing, on some days, we did see the people that we left the albergue. So we were walking and riding the same sort of distance. Maybe that's because they were flagging, or maybe that's because we didn't really want to leave the trail. So we were doing short days and just like finding more excuses just to bimble about and take it slow. So my friends that were doing the walking, they were saying, oh, it's really tough, it's the walking. And yeah, I can see that. I didn't get any blisters. Do I get blisters when I'm walking? No, generally not. But anyway, what for us, it was for me, it was the pushing up. So there's me, and then there's all my kit, which I might have been carrying that on my back, except I wouldn't have had all of that kit because I wouldn't have been camping. I'd be walking, I'd be staying in an albergue, and that's on the bike. So the bike's not all that heavy, but it's not all that light either. So I'm pushing all of that. So it's, instead of just carrying and lightening the load, maybe by pushing my pack up with my hands behind my back, everything is on that bike, and I have to get all of that and the bike to the top of that mountain. Up we go. So from that point of view, but on the flip side of that, beautiful breeze coming down, of course, when you're cycling down. So that alleviated those days that it was really hot. So I guess that is definitely a bonus. And I guess that we could zip off the trail if we wanted to go and find a shop. If we could see a village down there. If you're walking, I can well imagine you would probably not want to go all the way down there to a place that you don't really know and you don't know if there's a shop. Whereas on the bikes, I think we were maybe a bit more inclined to go, oh, should we go and see what's down there, even if we had to cycle back up the hill afterwards. That's what I think you'd find. Staying in campsites is a big thing, in the sense that even with, like, I suppose sleep is disturbed. Maybe it's an equal par for different reasons, because sleep is disturbed if your sleep mat keeps going down like mine did, and you're just ending up, or the thunderstorm, thunder and lightning is waking you up, because it was pretty stormy. So as opposed to being in a dorm bunk full of loads of people and somebody snoring wakes you up, I guess in that instance, you could put headphones on and have something downloaded on your phone, and yeah, or you're on the Wi-Fi there and you can just listen to something. Being in the albergues, some do communal meals. We were always having to cook for ourselves or go out and find food. Sometimes that was difficult in the sense that you would be totally ready for bed, but the place down the road is not starting food until 9. And especially in quite sort of local rural areas, that was the case. Some places were just, they open at certain times and it's not, shall we say, British supper time. I think the other thing about going on the bikes is some of the terrain, my hands and wrists would have benefited from having front suspension, but equally a lot of it absolutely did not need full or half sus bikes. So if you can get anything on larger tyres, then fantastic, because you're going to gain a bit of suspension back from there. I really did my wrists in. I think it was partly also for the tension. Like, as much as you're trying to relax, you're literally like trying to hurtle but not hurtle, because you've got to really pick your way through rocks and stuff with all the kit on the bike. It's a different sort of a thing than when you're on a mountain bike and you might be a little bit more gung-ho. Yeah. How do I feel now about the Camino? Yeah, so glad I did it. And actually what I really feel is, but I want to go to Oviedo and I want to take the Camino Primitivo. And this is what we're going to do next year. We're going to walk it. So we'll get the ferry to Santander, and then we'll go through Cantabria to on the coach and into Asturias and stay at Oviedo. And then we're going to walk Grado, Salas, Tineo, Polendante, and all of that, all the way through to Lugo. Lugo is a really key city, interesting one to visit. So I've heard, as you get into Galicia. And then we're not going to be able to do the Sobrado dos Monxes again unless we're going to split off the route maybe at Lugo or San Romeo. But yeah, I think it'll stick. Well, who knows what's going to happen, but yeah, next year this is the adventure to be had.